Hello my darkling, welcome to my little cottage by the sea, the place where I love to stitch and craft my way to a vintage inspired and sustainable lifestyle. In today's episode, some edible crafting that I'd love to share with you. To celebrate this auspicious time of year, I thought I'd convene my coven and put together an All Hallows high tea that we could all enjoy together. And what with you being kindred spirits, I thought you might enjoy this too. I sent out my invites via back post and got planning the menu for my All Hallows high tea. We've come to know it, was invented in around the 1840s by Anna Maria Russell, the 7th Duchess of Bedford, who found that by 5 in the afternoon she was feeling rather peckish, so an afternoon tea was in order. I'm very grateful to the Duchess for coming up with such a delightful and charming notion, although my afternoon tea does veer towards the more unconventional. I've spent a leisurely few hours looking through my cookery books and on Pinterest land for ideas that I thought my coven would really enjoy. I put together some savoury ideas and some sweet treats that I thought that my coven would particularly like. I tried a good balance of the two, but I know that my coven has more of a savoury palate than a sweet. The savoury delights that I prepared for my coven were all quite traditional in their original idea, but I put a slightly more macabre slant on things. Cucumber sandwiches have to be one of the most traditional things that you would get with an afternoon tea. Mine are Ghoulcumber sandwiches, and I cut out just some white bread with these really sweet little ghosty shaped cake cutters and then filled with butter and very thinly sliced cucumbers. They went down a treat, they disappeared within a puff of smoke before you could say Casper. Next up on my All Hallows menu were my I ground his bones to make my breadsticks, and this was simplicity itself. I just bought some pre-made pizza dough, divided it into lots of little sections. Each little piece I rolled into a little sausage. I snipped down each end and then just moulded the ends into a sort of bone shape. I popped those onto a baking sheet and washed them with a beaten egg, then sprinkled over black Himalayan salt, which has a really nice smoky taste, and some pink peppercorns, which have a sweeter peppery taste, and then some grated parmesan. I just popped those into the oven until they were done, and they were absolutely delicious. And I served those with my vampire relish, a very, very simple relish to make. I put a pack of cherry tomatoes, a couple of red onions, a whole bulb of garlic, all smushed up with some thyme, salt and pepper, and a little bit of olive oil. And I just roasted that until they were nicely cooked, and then just whizzed them up, popped them in a serving dish, and the breadsticks dipped in that were simply divine. I also served devil's eggs, which is a bit of a 70s, I think, sort of cult classic, but they are essentially a sort of riff on egg mayonnaise. So I just boiled up a load of eggs. I halved them, making sure that I cut some little slices off the edges so that the eggs would sit nice and sturdy rather than wiggle all around. I removed the yolks and mixed those with some mayonnaise, some Dijon mustard and some Aleppo pepper, and then whizzed that all up and spooned it back into the egg cases. Now, I had wanted to do some really fancy piping work, but my piping bag exploded. Obviously, it had a poltergeist of its own. And then I sprinkled over some more Aleppo pepper, because these are devil's eggs, they are meant to be fiery. And they were supposed to have little horns cut out of red pepper, but I completely ran out of time. My next savoury delight were my all-seeing eyes. Another very effective yet completely simple dish to prepare. I just bought mozzarella balls, small mozzarella balls, some green olives stuffed with pimento and peppers, and I just did a little hole in the mozzarella balls and then sliced the olives in half and popped those into the mozzarella balls. I would have loved actually to have painted on some sort of red lines to make these look more scarily eye-like, but there was only so much time I had to prepare this, but next time I'll give that a go. My final savoury treat for my All Hallows high tea were the Shrunken Heads of All Who Have Wronged Me. And this again is very, very simple. Simply buy small potatoes, you just want them to be sort of ping pong size, then gouge out 2 eyes and a mouth so you get that sort of Scream, Edward Munch Scream look. Pop them in a baking dish with olive oil, salt and pepper, roast them and then serve them. And they worked fabulously with the vampire's relish as well. Now, when it comes to serving my savoury and sweet delights, I decided to go for a sort of elegantly refined All Hallows theme. I think that it's wonderful to go full on kitsch and really enjoy the splendour that this season can offer, but I wanted to keep to a very simple colour code. I've been collecting vintage china for many, many years and I have all sorts of things in my dresser here. I didn't quite have enough plates though, and what I really love when you go looking around in antique shops or vintage shops or just charity shops, which is my preference, I had in mind that I wanted some plates to add to the ones that I already have here. But I walked into a charity shop I don't normally go into and they had a whole stack of these very pretty plates, enough for all the people that I had invited who had RSVP'd that they would be attending. And what I really liked about these was that they had a sort of silvery, orangey theme, but they still went with all the pink that I love. They also went with the glass plates and other things that would be on the table. So I was really pleased to get hold of these. And I just collected some ivy from outside. I've got not a garden, but a sort of little bit of earth, and it's just filled basically with a bush and ivy. I'm quite happy with that. So what with some candles in little tea glasses and the ivy and some really lovely fake mercury light pumpkins that I've got, went for a quite simple minimalist table setting that would look really opulent by candlelight with all these plates and platters of food. And then when it came to my sweet delights, I served my savoury delights separately, so the all-seeing eyes were all together and the Shrunken Heads of All Who Wronged Me were all together. But when it came to my sweet options, I wanted to have them all mixed up together so that you have this very opulent display. Alongside pots of tea, which I actually didn't serve, we were taking spirits of a different kind, it has to be said. Nothing screams afternoon tea alongside cucumber sandwiches as scones or scones, depending on where you're from or how you pronounce it. So I made some pumpkin shaped cinnamon scones. So it's just a traditional scone recipe with some added cinnamon. I cut them out with the little pumpkin cutter that I got in the same set as that little ghoulie ghosty, and they looked really, really fabulous. I bought the clotted cream and then I just used a red currant raspberry jam that my kiddo had bought me for my birthday, so I thought it was quite good because it was sort of called innards jam. So pumpkin scones with innards jam. I quite liked the way that sounded and it delighted my coven. I also made black magic mushrooms. These are a traditional Russian mushroom cookie biscuit that I found on Pinterest land. I ordered the molds for them from Amazon and then proceeded to make them. They were actually really easy to make, but the whole process was really involved. There was a lot of do this bit, ice this bit together, then let that dry, then do the next bit, let that dry, then do the next bit, let that dry. But even though it drove me slightly stir crazy, they were really, really worth it, and my coven really loved them. They're not something that I would make all the time because they just took such a long time. I'll probably make some for the Yule season ahead of us, but they really were worth it, and my coven really appreciated how pretty they looked in and amongst all the other sweet delights. I love to make a statement cake, but this time I made cupcakes, and I settled on pumpkin patch cupcakes. Now you may ask why my pumpkins look so verdant and delicious, and I always would reply to somebody that it's because of what you put in the soil. I had a wonderful time moulding these pumpkins out of marzipan, then painting them with orange food dye, making the little stalk and whatever those are called, spirals, leaves, stems, out of some royal icing. The recipe for these, a pumpkin cupcake, that's so hard to say, is from the Primrose Bakery cookbook. That's a favourite. I've had it for years and made many of the recipes out of it. The Earl Grey cupcakes are particularly good. I just cut apart very carefully the little plastic bits that I popped in because I wanted to create this effect that maybe I'd been burying things in my garden, and those buried bodies had created these incredible pumpkins. My final sweet delight were Voodoo Dolls, which again were a very, very simple thing to make, which I'm very glad, because really the majority of my prep time seemed to be taken up with the pumpkin cupcakes and the mushroom cookies. So the Voodoo Dolls were just simple. I got the idea just from something I saw on Pinterest. I bought ready-made pre-rolled puff pastry and I cut it out with the little cookie cutter, the gingerbread man. I just cut out however many I could, and then in between them I bought a Bon Maman caramelized apple spread, and I just spread it between the two layers, put another one on top. I brushed them with some egg whites and just baked them in the oven till they were done. All of these things were just like little mouthful sizes, and it was just a case of a few minutes here and there in the oven. And then I put cocktail sticks in and then provided a little pot of cocktail sticks at the table so that my coven members could do some voodoo doll hexing of their very own, should they have felt the need. To accompany my All Hallows high tea, I came up with a potion, an elixir, which I called the Wolfsbane. And this was essentially a take on the Moscow Mule. So it was vanilla vodka, a little dash of gingerbread syrup, some lime juice just squeezed in, and then some apple juice and then ginger beer to top up. And then I toasted these little marshmallows over candles, probably not the best way of doing it, to sort of give it a bit of a smoky flavour and then to sort of represent the moon. If you aren't partaking of alcohol, you can easily declaw these Wolfsbanes by just leaving out the vodka and just putting a tiny dash of vanilla extract in, just to keep those flavours nicely balanced. My coven absolutely loved these cocktails, but they also bought plenty of potions and elixirs of their own, and we were making merry until the very early hours of the morning. I felt very, very grateful to be sitting around a table of such wonderful humans who all are so dear to me. I feel that one of the best ways to show people that you love and care about them and that they mean a lot to you is to invite them round your table and to cook delightful things for them to enjoy. It was so much fun to come up with all these ideas and then to make them happen as if by magic, and to share them with people that I absolutely love. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at my All Hallows high tea and that you found something to inspire and interest you here today. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend the time with me here in my little cottage by the sea. I wish you a most fabulous All Hallows night, and I really hope that it is filled with all of your favourite treats and delight. It's been really lovely to share Vlogtober with you, and I really appreciate all the kind comments and the support that you show me. Even though Vlogtober has come to an end for another year, I am going to be indulging in more spookiness over the coming winter months, and I hope that you will come and join me here in my little cottage by the sea for all of that in the coming months. Till next time, my lovelies, bye.